Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. I'm confused by Bernie Sanders. First of all, the question is, who does he mean when he says people? Then I'll get into the second question. What do I mean by this? I mean, when he says people should not work 40 hours and not having a living wage. So who's the people? Who's he talking about people? What people is he talking about? Do you know that less than 1% of the population gets minimum wage? Less than 1%, not of the population, less than 1% of the labor force. The labor force is actually a very small number now because there's only 40% labor participation in the United States right now. That means 60% of the people aren't working. Probably half of them are too young to work, and the other half are too old to work. But of the working age people, only 40% of them are actually working. So who is he talking about when he says people? And when they're firing everybody, who is he talking about people? Does he mean the people that are working and who actually can afford everything that they're working for? Because if we're talking about less than 1% of the population, how in the heck is that a campaign strategy? Did you know that it's less than 1% of the people working that are on minimum wage? And let's get to my second point. Here's what he says. The people shouldn't work 40 hours and not have a living wage. Okay, now, what does a living wage mean? Because living wage to me means that you can have enough to pay for your car, gas, home, bills, and go shopping. Because that's living to me, that you have your own car, that you have your own house, and that you occasionally go shopping. That to me sounds like living. Does he mean something else when he says living? Because that's what it means to me. And last time I checked, people who make $30,000 a year, a lot of them can't afford car, home, and shopping. But he's not talking about them. He's talking about minimum wage. So if he's only talking about minimum wage, but even people making $30,000 a year can't afford car, home, and shopping, then who is he actually talking about? And who are you people cheering on when he's talking about this? Do you understand what it costs to live in the United States right now? I don't think you do if you're cheering this guy on. Why don't you break out an economics book? Why don't you break out some charts? Why don't you break out some study? I mean, you have the internet at your fingertips now. Who are you cheering? And let's take a look at that. You mean to tell me he's saying that somebody who sweeps the floor should make enough money to buy a car, pay for gas, buy a house, pay for bills, and go shopping because they sweep the floor? Why are they sweeping the floor? Because that's just a task that the business owner would like to designate to somebody so that the people who are really making money for the company can be about the business of making money for the company. Do you understand that part? And if you say, well, what about fast food? A lot of fast food people don't even work 40 hours. So that point is moot. He's not talking about them. He said 40 hours a week. That's what he said. He didn't mean fast food because fast food, you don't work 40 hours a week. In fact, I don't believe anybody working on minimum wage gets 40 hours a week. If you do, show me that person. I'll be happy to talk specifically about them. But across the board, people who make minimum wage regularly do not work 40 hours a week. Let's go up to like $15 an hour right now. A lot of those people don't work 40 hours a week. It's not until you get into the salaried positions do you get regular 40-hour a week positions. So a lot of this is double speak. A lot of this is he is lying right to your face and you're cheering him on. I'm telling you, break out these charts. This specific thing about the minimum wage not working 40 hours has been the topic of a lot of discussion way before Bernie Sanders came along. because it was the norm that minimum wage was an entry-level position. And a lot of these minimum wage positions aren't money-making positions. You do not make money for the company. A lot of them are just busy work. Cleaning the bathroom, sweeping the floors, greeting people who come into the door. Are you generating money by greeting people at the door? No, you're not. And I don't mean like you're giving goodwill to the people. No, I'm talking about, are you going and bringing people into the store, getting them to buy stuff, making the sale? Those people don't make minimum wage. So we're not talking about those people. So who are we talking about? I'm telling you, this guy is lying to you, and you all are steady cheering him on. And if you really believe what he's saying, are we talking about people sweeping the floor? They should be able to afford car, home, and shopping, because he said a living wage. What does he mean, a living wage? Because I'll tell you what I mean when I say a living wage. I mean that you can have a car, home, and shopping. Car, home, and shopping. Car, home, and shopping. Bills, shoes. I mean, where do we stop? What's the limit for living wage? What do you mean by it? If you can't pay your bills, that's not a living wage, right? If you can't afford a car in the United States, that's not a living wage. If you can't afford gasoline, that's not a living wage, right? So my definition is correct. So we're talking about people who sweep the floor should be able to afford a car, home, bills, gas, and shopping. And I'm sorry to say, I would never pay somebody $20 an hour to sweep the floor. But I would do somebody a favor and pay them a little bit to sweep the floor. That's doing them a favor. That's creating a job out of nothing just so I could do something for somebody, and it makes my business beautiful. So I scratch their back and they scratch mine. But it's not something that actually makes the company money. You have to divest your emotion and actually listen to what these politicians are saying. Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.